ये जो देश है तेरा स्वदेश है तेरा तुझे है पुकारा.
Welcome back. You're watching our special program 70 Years of Freedom. Before we went into the break, we questioned the panelists about the larger questions on secularism, Dalit atrocities, but there are many issues which still remain unresolved, and one of them is Kashmir. Kashmir is still boiling, and what are the reasons? Since 1947, we see that Kashmir remains as a headline on all the TV news channels, which we see even today. My first question to you, Mr. Iyer, is because Congress has ruled the country for more than 5 decades almost, and BJP has in a way just begun to rule for the last 2 years almost, and a brief stint of 5 years earlier. 6 years. What is the main reason for the Kashmir dispute to remain unresolved yet?
Of these 5 decades, I would draw your attention to the first 4.
Right.
It was not until 1990 that Kashmir exploded. Until then, there were problems, but there was an attempt made, more or less successful, less successful in many respects, but more or less successful, to keep the lid on the issues. And the kind of demonstrations that we've seen since the 1990s did not have an existence from 1947 till about 1990. In 1989 December, within a few days of the formation of the VP Singh government, Mufti Saab's daughter was kidnapped. And because of a lack of experience of handling these kind of crises, while Rajiv Gandhi had approached a Kashmiri judge of the Allahabad High Court to set up a back channel to talk to these people and say it's completely un-Islamic to kidnap a young unmarried woman and please restore her, the government decided to release a number of terrorists.
Right.
Among the terrorists released is the head of today's Jaish-e-Mohammed. So at that time, the mistake that was made was then compounded.
But even during the UPA rule, we saw the issue
it was
boiling
tremendous.
up.
I gave the
Stone
credit,
pelters going amok.
I gave the credit to Mr. Vajpayee, but carrying it forward and all the way through till about 2008, 2009 has to go to Dr. Manmohan Singh on the one hand,
right,
and Pervez Musharraf on the other. There was a lot of progress made. Unfortunately, I regret this as a congressman, the outcome of the roundtable conferences, the outcome of the all-party delegation, the outcome of the interlocutors remained more or less locked up in the cupboard.
But Mr. Rao, my question to you is that are we really addressing the right people? Why are we only looking at a militaristic approach? Why not a political dialogue with all the stakeholders? And first of all, your government identifies who are the real stakeholders. Separatists have their own voice. BJP has a different voice. Then the indigenous militants, they are having their own voices. For the first time, I was reading an article on human rights which said that for the first time, the ratio of the indigenous militants and the foreign militants, it has grown. The indigenous militants are far by greater in number. What is the real reason for this?
Kashmir issue is a very important for us in the context of our nationhood. And on this there is a consensus. On this, there is a consensus among all political parties.
But there is a larger feeling that there is a difference in the way the government is looking at it. The government looks at the land of Kashmir and the Kashmiris differently.
No, you know, land and people can never be separated from anywhere, not only in Kashmir or anywhere. So that simplistic interpretation is not going to resolve the issue. On Kashmir issue, all political parties, in the context of nationhood, we have always taken a view that Kashmir is an integral part of the country.
Okay.
As far as that is concerned, and all opposition parties, when even BJP was in opposition, we had cooperated with the then ruling party, Congress. And our leaders also represented the Indian view on the international fora. So, on this issue, we have to agree that when we define the nationhood, there is a consensus. Second, we have to accept there is a Pakistan. And Pakistan is based on the two-nation theory and particularly based on the religion. and they have a permanent interest in creating the problem and in sustaining the problem in Kashmir.
Why do the people in Kashmir now are saying, especially after the Burhan Wani's killing, why are the people saying that Kashmir has never gone through times like these ever before?
You know, I
Why
don't
is there a
agree with
larger
that.
feeling?
I don't
I'll come
agree
to
with
you,
that. When you say Kashmir, I want to know what is this Kashmir. Kashmir is only Muslims, and what about the Kashmiri Pandits? Without excluding Kashmiri Pandits, can you call there is any Kashmiriyat? When you call Kashmiriyat, Kashmiri Pandits are also part and parcel of that Kashmir identity.
Mridula ji, the way the Kashmir problem is dealt by the political class, irrespective of the blame game between Congress and the BJP, what do you think is the real solution? Are we really addressing the right people for resolving this problem? Are we really serious? Is the political class really serious?
I have a feeling that perhaps Mr. Rao is underestimating the gravity of the situation today,
Right.
because he is thinking that it's just another episode. The sense that we are getting from reading what's going on and from talking to people who are experts in the field, from people who've been there, etc., is that it's very different. There is a degree of alienation, and particularly among the youth, which goes far beyond anything that's getting expressed in terms of what we are seeing in the newspapers.
Now, how do you
So,
address problems
no,
like,
this
when
is-
Mr. Rajnath Singh tweets and addresses to the people, but the internet is blocked? Now, how would you really explain situations like these?
Also, you have to be aware
One
that
administrative step in times of crisis, in times of emergency. We should not take it as a permanent state of affairs. That was only aimed at controlling the situation.
when curfew
So,
goes on for more
he-
than a month, it sort of feels like very permanent to the people who are suffering.
Right.
Where all the disruptions of the social media again go on for a fairly long period. And I want to emphasize this, you are now, the people who are on the streets are young people mostly, and they are people who have been born in conflict.
Okay.
They are people who do not remember the peaceful days of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. So, I think this is very important. We have to understand the psychology of people with whom you will have to deal with today. In fact, the crisis today in Kashmir is crisis of leadership.
But Mr. Iyer, India's approach towards Pakistan, basically Kashmir is the fulcrum of it. They want the Kashmir dispute to be resolved. Do you think that the country, especially under the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, will ever get its foreign policy right towards Pakistan? Of course, Prime Minister Modi had in the past pulled a rabbit out of the hat by dropping in at Lahore and going and meeting Mr. Nawaz Sharif. But measures like these, do you feel that in the larger context, these are just eyewash measures and not very serious initiatives are being taken?
Yeah, I think the Pakistan policy has, in my view, as someone who lived in Pakistan as the first Consul General for 3 years, and in the last 35 years I've been back to Pakistan 35 times.
Right.
And I've been accused of being a Pakistan agent. I have been saying that you must talk to those people because there's a huge constituency for peace in Pakistan. And the more we engage with Pakistan, the more those people are able to validate their position. The more we break it, the more the military, the intelligence comes to dominate policy making. And to some extent, the proof is that every time we talk to the Kashmiris and to the Pakistanis, tension within the valley and from outside, from Pakistan, decreases.
But what is the biggest hindrance for the present government? Why this kind of an engagement, or what Mr. Iyer is talking about, this kind of an engagement is not happening at all levels? This engagement, this sort of engagement is missing.
You know, engagement not happening is not the correct statement. And what
At least
Rajnath
that's a
Singh
larger feeling.
even Rajnath ji as a home minister, he had gone and he has asked the people and he met the people, and even before there has been an engagement. With Pakistan, I would like to say, you have to understand Pakistan is a difficult state. There is no stability. There is no a kind of defined establishment with which we can talk and whom we can take as a accountable quarter. So the situation we have to understand, and with that situation we have to go forward. So that is what happening, and Modi ji has always taken the risk of taking initiatives with Pakistan, on the first day of the swearing in ceremony.
Say something.
Mr. Vajpayee demonstrated huge understanding. He didn't have the concept of Pakistan that Mr. Rao has just now placed before us. He was the one who reopened our mission in Karachi and sent me, of all people, as the first person to be the Consul General there. It was he who repeatedly engaged with Pervez Musharraf, despite the butcher of Kargil having become the dictator. He was the one who, despite the failure of the Agra summit, went to Islamabad and worked out the terms on which it could be done. He was the one who went to Kashmir and used those three words, Kashmiriyat, Insaniyat and Jamhuriyat, to be able to open the doors towards the dialogue. So the Modi view, or the Modi government's view of Kashmir, is contradictory not only to the Congress view or the NC view, it's also contradictory to their own view. And that is why I think there is huge immaturity in foreign policy. It's being made Modi-centric. All initiatives are attributed to one human being. All credit has to be given to one human being, and nobody else counts. There has never been a more irrelevant foreign minister than poor Sushma Swaraj. She's an extremely able minister.
Are we missing that kind of a statesmanship, which probably during Vajpayee's regime, which we saw? Do you really feel that the larger bit is that those kind of statesmen are now missing?
You know, I think it goes far beyond that. Statesmen are missing, so what do we do? Suppose they are. I mean, we've got to get on with life, you know. You don't need only a Prime Minister. I mean, Mani Shankar is good enough to go and talk to the Kashmiris and the Pakistanis. You know, we've got lots of people. You had interlocutors who were sent to Kashmir. Why can't this government use them again today? They are not party people. They were three independent intellectuals, journalists, etc. And there are so many people. I mean, I don't think the crisis is of, you know, statesmen have gone or whatever. I think if the government, at whatever level, with the prompting of the RSS or whatever, you know, we have.
I'm coming to that question
fortunately,
now, and then we'll throw the floor open to the audience.
Advisors to the government, you know, in case the government fails somewhere. So somebody should be telling the government to take the right initiatives.
Here I would like to say, Mani Shankar ji is not fair. At least, you know, when Atalji was Prime Minister, I have never seen that the Congress leaders are, when he was approaching and handling or addressing the Kashmiri problem, he was appreciated like this, as a statesman, as a matured person. So, you know, politics, the bipartisan politics are coming in the way. And Modi ji is also, he has not deviated from what Atalji has said.
I'm coming to the larger question, Mr. Muralidhar Rao, what Mridula ji made a point, that was a very valid point. Why people see BJP playing a double narrative? RSS says something else and BJP says something else. There is a double narrative which is being played out by the present government. Why is this so?
In the context of Kashmir, I don't see there is any conflict
not in terms of
Modi. You know, here once you say, one side you are saying that Narendra Modi ji is too powerful and government is completely centric around him and nobody is important, and then how come that RSS has become more important than Narendra Modi? And how come it has become RSS is able to create a agenda which is away from Narendra Modi and which is not in agreement? So, you know, we have to be at least.
Why are people saying that fringe has suddenly become the center?
You know, when somebody says fringe, they also mean that BJP itself, you know, when somebody says fringe has become center, you know, from 2 it has become 282 is the meaning. You have to understand. So, in a political democracy, 2 can always become 282. So, fringe becoming center and center becoming fringe is also, you know, we have to understand what does it.
Okay, so this is the bottom line, that BJP has come back to power with a thumping majority, and now we will throw the floor open to the audience. I'll come to you. Just raise your hands and give them the mic. Yes, go ahead.
One thing.
Yes.
There's more thumping than majority.
More thumping than majority. Okay. Mr. Muralidhar Rao, you'll have to answer for that, but we'll go to the audience now. Yes, go ahead. Your question to whom?
I'd like to pose my question to Mr. Mani Shankar, sir.
Okay.
Sir, you stated in your comments that the foreign policy of India is in a state of disarray. But then to look on the flip side of the coin, the same foreign policy is going to bring many investors into the country. The GST bill, which has been recently passed with the combined efforts of both Congress and the BJP, will look to increase the growth rate of our country to around 8% quoted by our RBI Governor Mr. Rajnath Singh. So I'd like to ask you for your views on this.
The Westinghouse deal, which is a great example of the foreign investment that's going to be brought into this country, will require an expenditure by India of $190 billion. Is this the kind of foreign investment we want? Foreign investment in India has been increasing ever since the government of India, the Congress government of India, decided that they should be inviting foreign investment. That happened in 1991. It's been steadily increasing. There's some addition now, good, but please don't attribute this increase in foreign investment to just the arrival of the Modi government or anything that they may have said. We were talking about foreign policy.
Right.
We come to economic policy. In foreign policy, the disarray is found in tom-tomming everywhere that we are going to get into the NSG. And then what happened? There's even a last-minute meeting with the Chinese. This is not the way you run foreign policy. Equally on Pakistan. Make it personal. You don't make it institutional. With Nepal. It's a friendly neighbor.
Muralidhar Rao, you admit to the fact that there have been mistakes while dealing with China, with countries like Nepal, with Pakistan. There has been some kind of a mistake in dealing.
I want to understand first, there is a person coming from a party which has ruled this country for 50 years and reviewing the success and failures of the foreign policy. It is possible. I can understand. But a government which has come into power for just 2 years and now you started talking about its failures. This is, one cannot understand. How can you judge within 2 years that the failure of
this will be never ending.
Second, here I would like to another explanation. Here institutionalization. Jawaharlal Nehru as a leader, as a prime minister, and as a popular person, he also influenced and steered the foreign policy.
Okay, we'll take the next question.
Narendra Modi ji as a prime minister doing something.
Sir, on one angle you are saying there is space in your government to the other democratic parties. And on the other hand, in the Rajasthan State Board, you are just omitting the name of first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. And after that you are omitting also the name of who killed to the Mahatma Gandhi. And on the other hand, when
keep your questions short, huh?
When our Prime Minister is saying now to the Gorakshakas that you should, as he addressed, तुम्हें पॉलीथीन खाने से गायों को बचाना चाहिए तो उससे भी काफ़ी सेवा हो जाएगी. Why didn't this statement come out after the Adri lynching? Why is there a fear that after the as the Dalits will go out of Hindu policy?
Okay, let him give the answer now.
Keeping or incorporating somebody's name in the history book and excluding somebody's name from the history book, if that is the criteria, then Congress or other political parties cannot go away from this. Just taking one example from somewhere and you are generalizing, that is the danger to democracy and danger to the parliamentary democracy, and there is no space for the opposition. Corrections have been made many times, even for BJP, and Prime Minister also had issued statement on many times. Even the party leaders who have given a wrong statement or taken wrong steps, they have been admonished and they have been expelled, many such incidents. So BJP's commitment for the democracy, I don't think even adversary can doubt. If so that is the situation, then
is BJP more nationalistic than Congress? Is that what?
No, it is. It is not a good state to discuss about. Congress is less nationalistic and BJP is more nationalistic, and nationalism is the issue on which we should judge. There may be certain issues on which we differ.
Okay.
It is not that they are less patriotic and BJP people are more patriotic. This is not the correct way of looking at the things.
Can I ask him a question?
Yes, Mr.
In that case, what do you mean by Congress Mukt Bharat?
Congress Mukt Bharat
BJP says that Congress Mukt Bharat is the end goal of BJP.
Congress Mukt Bharat in a context of elections.
Okay.
In a context of a regime we had, in a regime we had, we wanted Congress Mukt Bharat. Right? In emergency also, we wanted Congress Mukt Bharat.
I'll come to you. Okay. Yes, go ahead with your question.
My question is to Mr. Rao. Sir, actually, sir,
अभी चाइना से जो स्टील वहाँ पे मैन्युफैक्चर हो रहा है और इंडिया में जो स्टील मैन्युफैक्चर हो रहा है, तो सर चाइनीज़ मार्केट हमारे इंडिजीनियस मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को काफ़ी इफेक्ट कर रहा है और हम लोग कॉम्पीट नहीं कर पा रहे उनसे। एक जगह हम मेक इन इंडिया की बात कर रहे हैं सर, उससे हम फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स को बुला रहे हैं, बट हम जो अपने मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैं, इंडिया के मैन्युफैक्चरर्स हैं, इंडिजीनियस मैन्युफैक्चरर्स को किस तरीके से हम एम्पावर कर रहे हैं, उस पर हमारा कितना फोकस है उनको एम्पावर करने पे। एंड मैम एक मेरा क्वेश्चन इसी से रिलेटेड है सर, ग्लोबलाइजेशन है, इंटरनेट का पावर है, सोशल मीडिया है, बट सर जब स्टार्टअप करने की बात आती है, जब लाइसेंसेस लेने की बात आती है, तो सर वन विंडो प्रोसेस क्यों नहीं है इंडिया में? जैसे काफ़ी यूरोपियन कंट्रीज में वन विंडो।
इनफैक्ट हिज ओन क्वेश्चन, आई मीन
चीन के साथ जो हम स्टील आयात कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर, ऐसी जो समस्याएं हैं जो ट्रेड के संदर्भ में, और ट्रेड में दो बातें अलग अलग हैं। एक कि हमारे जो इंटरनल कैपेसिटी और कुल मिलाकर के जो डोमेस्टिक इंडस्ट्री को कैसे प्रोटेक्ट करना और कैसे सेफ गार्ड करना, इस विषय में हम समय समय पर इस विषय में सरकार, कोई भी सरकार है, इस विषय में काम करती है और करना चाहिए, और इसमें कुछ कमी है तो उसको भी ठीक करना। लेकिन इसमें और एक फ्रेमवर्क है WTO, तो WTO संदर्भ में भी हम मान लीजिए कभी अपने पास कुछ सेफ गार्ड्स होते हुए भी कई बार हम डिस्प्यूट सेटलमेंट में जाना पड़ता है। फिर अभी पोल्ट्री इंडस्ट्री में हम हार गए थे कि अमेरिका के साथ। तो इस विषय में भारत अपने घरेलू उद्योग को विश्व की प्रतिस्पर्धा में लाने के लिए जो भी हमने कुछ काम किया है, उसमें करते हुए भी अपने घरेलू उद्योग को बचाना, और मेक इन इंडिया का अर्थ घरेलू उद्योग को नहीं बचाना और कोई केवल फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट को लाना, ये संभव नहीं है। और भारतीय जनता पार्टी का मानना हमेशा है कि फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट और फॉरेन प्ले विल बी ओनली ए सप्लीमेंट्री थिंग। The main contribution will always come from the domestic industry, domestic savings and domestic investment.
But Mridula Mukherjee, do you really agree with what Mr. Rao is saying? And you know, campaigns like Make in India, Digital India, Skill India, the analysts say that these are just political rhetorics and not on the ground reality is something different, totally.
I'm afraid that's so. If you look at the figures, even this morning I was reading that last month there was a little pickup in exports and it's gone down again. So exports have been declining now for more than 18 months consistently. Imports are declining as well. When you have a booming economy and you're talking about 7.5% rate of growth, that's not generally the story that you see, because this is a globalized world, and one of the indications of growth is that you're getting more and more integrated with the world.
Can I get
let me just put in one more fact. Again, what is happening, if you look at job creation, which affects particularly young people who are coming out of courses like these young people in this group today, this is a jobless growth that we are seeing. There is I don't have the figures with me right now, but it's abysmal. The job creation that we are seeing right now is abysmal. So again, there are very, very serious, and I'm not even talking about the growing inequality. I'm not even talking about the section of the population, more than 1/3, that remains below the poverty lines. There's no solid effort to reduce inequality. In fact, Narendra Modi, of course, he's corrected himself now, but he started out by saying he wants to keep Manrega as a monument to the folly of the Congress. He wants to preserve it like an archival or an archaeological relic. He realized later that the poor of this country are surviving because of Manrega, and the Congress had the wisdom to put in something which is the minimal social security that they have. It's not the reality of this government
even the World Bank data
figures. What the US wants is happening here today.
But the World Bank data figures also show that the economic growth which we are talking about between 2009 to 2014, it was almost 8%, but it has dropped now by 7.5 to 7.5%. So there is a difference by 0.5%. What is the reason for this decline?
In this program, I thought 70 years of freedom as a nation, what we have achieved. Economically what we have achieved, and socially what we have achieved, and politically also what we have achieved. Otherwise, this kind of discussions we will be every day doing, and government criticism of government, and this government and that government, state governments. This is an everyday affair.
But this point emanated only from the audience.
Now I am coming to the important point. You know, foreign investment. Foreign investment, when we talk about, particularly in the defense sector, if you see, importing the defense, ammunition, as a big country and with a lot of security issues and concerns, if we start importing, then we can understand what will be the impact on the global market.
Okay.
So, as a country, when we are aspiring to become a global power or member of the Global Administrative Council, so definitely we have to achieve some kind of self-reliance. So, in that context, instead of importing completely from the foreign countries, it is better even if they come here and they join with other in domestic players and create a domestic muscle. That will ultimately help in the long run in
Okay, so
achieving
from
the
what
self-reliance.
Mr. Rao has said, the intent is right. The roadmap has been laid out. So now another 2.5 years for BJP to go. We'll see how they implement the policies, how they carry on and execute Make in India, Skill India. That time will say. Okay, next question.
And my question is to Muralidhar sir. So you just said about 1975, that is condemnable. Okay, correct. But from what you just said, from 2 to 280, after you came into power, what the BJP did, I'm talking about Uttarakhand and Arunachal Pradesh. And I want to quote what the High Court said in the terms of Uttarakhand. The BJP is cutting down at the roots of democracy. And apart from that, last month what happened, first time ever Supreme Court restored government, removed the government which was in power and restored Congress. So
Yes.
is that the dual track or the double standard with the BJP is maintaining?
Let him answer now. Yes.
Good question you have asked. This is not the first time a central government has approached this problem,
was
and
your
the first time
excuse.
BJP is only
Following
targeted.
Good's
And now I
footsteps.
want to say, this is in Arunachal, don't throw the problem of Congress on BJP. The problem has come from Congress, and the problem is within, and it is internal problem.
Mr. Iyer, democratic institutions getting threatened? What do you have
Of
to
course
say?
they're threatened. In Arunachal, the speaker had fixed a date on which the vote of confidence would take place. At that point, we would determine whether the Congress had the majority or not. Now, to prevent that from taking place after due consideration, the governor intervenes. The governor intervenes, not only forces who should be presiding over the session, but when it should take place and where it should take place and what should be the agenda. This kind of interference we've never seen before.
Mr. Rao, all this is happening when the country enters its
and that is
7th
why,
decade of freedom.
and that is why the Supreme Court has condemned the BJP and its actions in such unmistakable
Quick comment
terms.
from Mr. Rao before we go on to the next person.
The very straight question I have answered. But I am very surprised to listen from my friend, senior leader from Manishankar Iyer, that Congress has never done it. I come from Andhra Pradesh. I come from Telangana. What happened with N.T. Ramarao? What is the history of
No, so you want to
I
repeat
don't
our
want
mistake?
to. We are already running
So
short
you
of
want
time.
to repeat our
No,
mistakes?
at least
I've always said this
they're factually
BJP,
incorrect.
when it comes to bad things, it's the Congress B team.
Let's take the next question because we have to wind up the show.
My question is that in the long run, what is the solution? Because nobody accepts the failure. Even today we have seen that nobody accepts. Even if Congress is in the power or be it BJP, they always play the blame game. So what is the solution for democracy to build up?
ma'am say now. Yeah.
I think the solution for a healthy, vibrant democracy is that young people like you should come forward and take part in politics in a big way.
You got your lesson? You
Take
will join politics.
responsibility.
Okay. Mr. Iyer, quick word from you. What is really the road ahead? Despite of all what we have discussed in the last 1 hour, all the problems, what is really the road ahead for making India into a vibrant democracy?
The road ahead is to first recognize the enormous progress that we have made as a country. I'm not giving the credit only to the Congress. Please note that we have gone from a growth rate of 0.72% on an average in the 50 years before independence, first under Jawaharlal Nehru to 3.5%, then it went up to 6%, then it's gone up to 8%. So therefore, if we can grow despite all our difficulties, I think the future indicates that we are going to become a more and more important economic power, provided we look to the poor and see to it that they too participate in the growth process. But if you become arrogant and say we are now going to be in, what did he call it, the Global Administrative Council, that we are a power that really
I'm
matters.
really running out of time.
Then
Mr.
all
Iyer.
kinds of stupid and silly things are done. I would suggest that we be modestly proud of our past and confident in our future, and that's the way forward.
Okay, Mr. Rao, quick comment from
Somebody's confidence becomes some arrogance for somebody.
you. Okay.
You know, we have to understand.
Does
it's
that
a
sum up the
country of-
road ahead?
You know,
Does that sum up the road ahead for the Indian democracy?
this country is a country of 125 crore. And we have achieved lot of green revolution, food security, and political democracy. We have achieved.
So you will.
And we have reduced the poverty. There may be some shortcomings. There may be, and we have been able to create an inclusive democracy. All these things. So
So which
further
means
we
you will
can
build
achieve
up,
as
you
one
will build
people.
up on the
As
Nehruvian
one
legacy,
people.
all what has been done over the last 60, 65, 69 years.
Time to time, different leaders have created impact, and in future also some other people will definitely create impact. As a nation, as and one people, we will be able to achieve, and we have lot of potential.
So that's a positive note, Mr. Rao, to end the program. But all we can say is that we have to learn from the past and build on the future to make India into a vibrant democracy. And as India enters into the 7th decade of freedom, it's time for all of us to celebrate, for the entire nation to celebrate, not getting into any kind of blame game as to what Congress has done, what BJP has done. But it's time again to celebrate. Thank you all of you, this vibrant set of audience and the panelists who come here and enhance the program in a big way. Thank you all.
स्वदेश है तेरा तुझे है